Da Vinci Code. It's been a bestseller for more than 2 years. It is fair to say the novel presents an unorthodox version of church history. But just how far does the author Dan Brown go? The book supposes that Mary Magdalene was the lover, if not wife, of Jesus Christ, and that the two had a child who then became part of the bloodline of the kings of France.
When the author of the best-selling novel, The Da Vinci Code, said that he hoped it would serve as a catalyst for discussing about faith, religion, and history, he may not have had in mind the attack on his work by one of Italy's leading cardinals, Tarcisio Bertone from Genoa.
The Da Vinci Code is a farce. I mean, you would learn more about genuine history and theology by watching Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
What has attracted readers to the Da Vinci Code is its central theme, which Dan Brown claims is a fact, that a mysterious European society known as the Priory of Sion has for centuries guarded a momentous secret, that Jesus Christ married Mary Magdalene and their descendants are living in France.
It's not surprising this has incurred the wrath of many Christians, including the Vatican, while others have wondered if there might not be some truth to all of this.
Do you believe, or does the Priory believe or have evidence that Jesus married Mary and had children?
Yes. Yes, is the simple answer to that.
Is there a bloodline in Jesus and Mary?
There is a bloodline of Jesus and Mary, yes. There is.
Three years ago, I set out to investigate what some believe is the greatest cover-up of all time. The truth about the real Jesus of Nazareth and his relationship with Mary Magdalene. I'm not an archaeologist or a historian. I'm just a filmmaker who was fascinated by the huge implications of this story, with the same questions that so many of us have about the Jesus of faith versus the Jesus of history. The Vatican says that the idea of a marriage and children is preposterous. But I've spent most of my life investigating stories that people said were either not true or unsolvable, and this one was no different, only the stakes were much higher.
It's hidden, isn't it? But it does seem like a convincing...
This is the story that is so dangerous no one dares tell it. And that's why it goes into myth and legend and art, because it's too dangerous to be stated as fact.
If the church has lied about Jesus' divinity and deliberately twisted the facts, then it would undermine the whole basis of accepted Christianity. I wasn't convinced by the church's version of events, nor did I buy the whole bloodline conspiracy either. But when you look at the hidden messages encoded in paintings, in documents, and even in churches across Europe, they do seem to tell a very different version of the Jesus story from the New Testament.
I mean, look at this. They're holding hands.
Their right hands, which is an element in the liturgy of marriage.
She looks pregnant, right?
Apparently. She does to me.
The success of the Da Vinci Code has brought so many people to the awareness of this subject that something has to happen. Either it has to be proven false or it has to be proven true.
If it was true, then I wanted to find the hard evidence, documents or maybe even relics that would shed new light on the idea of this bloodline. Anything less just wouldn't be enough. I knew that it was a long shot though. It was likely that anything worthwhile had either rotted away, been destroyed, or had been confiscated by the Vatican.
It's about power, it's about money, it's about manipulation. They are experts at it. There are stuff in the Vatican archives that most of us would give our back teeth to have a look at.
But there were rumours that some evidence had survived, protected down through the centuries by a secret society known as the Priory of Sion.
Bruce, they know you're there, so do not go to that meeting tonight, okay?
Gerard?
Oui.
Bonsoir.
Bonjour, boss.
I have a camera crew. Can they come?
Okay, okay.
Okay, guys.
The Priory of Sion exists today. They exist as a secret society. What if they really did produce the goods? What if they produced the body of Jesus or evidence of Mary and Jesus' marriage? That would have caused real uproar.
Back in 1979, the Priory's Grand Master, Pierre Plantard de Saint Clair, claimed that the early Merovingian kings of France had married the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, creating a sang royal, a royal bloodline, the true Holy Grail. This led to the bestseller Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which first brought these ideas to the world and which later inspired Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code.
There's no doubt that the Priory of Sion exists, and it's deposited the original statutes in 1956 as it has to under law, so that is an undeniable fact, and they have a story to tell. And it's not so much whether they exist, it's whether the story they have to tell is a valid story, or whether that is their confection.
Do you have an answer to that?
Well, through my researches, I have mixed feelings, because on one hand there's a huge amount of mythology and symbolism and playing with words and playing with ideas. On the other hand, there seems to be like a blueprint that holds it together, that however much you analyse it and try to debunk individual pieces, you still come back to a coherent whole.
Plantard's checkered past had led most people to dismiss the entire affair as his personal fantasy, but I wasn't so sure. If his mission had been to get this idea of the bloodline out into public consciousness, then with a little help from Dan Brown, I think he succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. I think the real threat of the bloodline for the church is how a marriage and children undermines Jesus' divinity and 2,000 years of Christian doctrine. Pierre Plantard had died in 2000, but there were reports that the Priory was still active today. My first real lead was a man in Paris who seemed to be carrying on his work. His name was Gino Sandri, and he claimed to be the Order's General Secretary. Through my French producer and translator, Eduardo Flaherty, I asked him if the Priory was real.
Oh, c'est une société réelle, à part que sous le nom de priorisation, il y a plusieurs structures. Et lorsqu'en 1956, il a été décidé de rendre une association publique, c'est un message qui était envoyé dans certains publics. Vous avez certaines choses.
But you will say you have certain things.
Nous savons que vous avez telle chose.
We know you have these things.
Et nous avons telle chose.
And we have certain things.
Documents?
Documents?
Entre autres, ouais.
Among other things.
What are the secrets they're guarding?
C'est quel genre de secret qu'ils gardent?
Oh là, je ne peux pas m'étendre là-dessus. Je ne peux pas... C'est un sujet dangereux.
It's a dangerous subject.
Il y a deux organisations, le Prieuré de Sion et l'Église catholique, l'Opus Dei. Il y a les bons et les méchants. On pourrait ajouter une chose. On pourrait dire que certaines œuvres d'art sont codées. Mais il faut comprendre ce que cela signifie.
But you have to understand the significance in these codes.
Gino Sandri became the Priory spokesman in the sort of mid-80s and seems to be carrying the flame of the Priory to this current time. And he has put out various press releases on behalf of the Priory, and one assumes from what he says that it's still in operation.
Dans ce que j'ai essayé en répondant à vos questions, ce n'est pas de donner la vérité, mais de fournir les éléments pouvant permettre d'approcher la vérité.
That would give you parameters from which you can start looking for the truth.
Do you feel we're on the right track?
Est-ce que nous sommes dans le bon chemin?
Ah oui.
Oui.
At the end of the interview, after the cameras were turned off, a man stood up at the back of the cafe, walked over, wrote something on a card and handed it to Sandri before walking out. Who he was and what he wrote, I don't know, but Sandri's reaction spoke volumes.
Are you in danger today, Gino?
Est-ce que toi, tu te sens en danger?
Sandri said that one of the coded works of art that he'd referred to was The Shepherds of Arcadia by Nicolas Poussin, a 17th century French artist who was rumoured to have been a member of the Priory of Sion. It depicts a group of shepherds studying a stone tomb out in a field. One of them is pointing to a Latin inscription in the stone, Et in Arcadia ego.
It is an anagram, again in Latin, and if I consult my notebook, when you transpose the letters, you get et ago in arca Dei, and I act in the name of the Ark of God.
Is there a game being played here?
Oh, almost certainly there's a game being played here, and it's a game that would appeal very much to the author of Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown, who loves solving puzzles. But who's playing the game? What's the point?
Tim told me that the Bloodline does exist, and that he's actually met some of its members.
I spent some 8 or 9 years investigating this story and seeing how I could substantiate it. And the conclusion we came to is, while it cannot be actively proved that their claim to descent from Jerusalem is absolutely certain, what can be seen by evidence amassed over nearly 8 centuries of records is that these people had preserved a story that said Jesus did not come to die on the cross to redeem us from sin, but to reveal a spiritual pathway of initiation leading to sacred knowledge or gnosis. This is a tradition which has been well accepted in France for many, many centuries.
So there is a bloodline?
Yes, oh, very definitely.
If you think of the bloodline coming from Jesus, the Catholic Church literally went and tried to stamp out everyone who was of that bloodline and everyone who knew them and knew who they were, and they thought that they could get rid of it that way. They purposely tried to keep people from gaining this knowledge of alternate versions of Jesus' life.
I went to the archives in Paris to see what else I could find on the Priory of Sion. On its microfilm records, I came across a document called Le Serpent Rouge, the Red Serpent. I was told that it could be a coded reference to the bloodline snaking its way down through history. There were references to the Queen of a Lost Kingdom, buried underground in a new Temple of Solomon, who was called Magdalene. It seemed to be referring to the tomb of Mary Magdalene. And in a bizarre and sinister twist, the three men shown as the authors of the document were all found dead within 24 hours of each other, just a few weeks after it appeared in the library. Were they killed for revealing secrets? And if so, who by? I called one of the few academics who's actually made a study of the Priory of Zion to see what he made of it all. Do you think that the Priory is real or a hoax?
That's not a very easy question to answer with a simple yes or no. I do believe that a lot of the information in the Priory documents is not true, is deceptive, presents a fake history of the organization. Now the question is it all a hoax? Some of the claims made in the Priory documents, they do check out. What makes this unusual and a bit bizarre is most hoaxers don't take material and sequester it away in the National Library where it's actually hard to find if no one is actually looking for it. That kind of behavior is a little bit strange. It's not like most of the other hoaxes that have occurred in history.
What do you make of the so-called bloodline theory that seems to be interwoven with the whole Priory mythology?
Well, at least according to the Nicene Creed, he was both God and man, and if he was both, certainly the man part of them could have had a wife and fathered children, right? So that doesn't attack the fundamentals of Christian theology. In fact, what was more controversial, that Jesus might have survived the crucifixion, or that the crucifixion might have been faked, or, I mean, the bottom line being that he had not been resurrected. That means he wasn't God, wasn't the Son of God.
Robert Howells is a research and data expert who specializes in investigating the covert world of Freemasons and secret societies, including the Priory of Zion. Having asked him to try and establish contact with the Priory's inner circle, he'd begun to receive some detailed emails.
Why do you think the Priory are talking to us?
What they appear to be doing is setting the ground for the general public. It's as if they're putting ideas out into consciousness, into public awareness, at a slow rate of acceptance. Because if, say 30 years ago, for example, you produced the body of Jesus, it would cause huge upheavals, and it would cause a lot of people distress, deep distress, that's unnecessary.
There have been emails going back and forth for a couple of weeks now, but the good news is that Rob's contact in the Priory has finally agreed to meet in person. I mean, I still don't know who he really is. I don't know why he's agreed to meet. I don't know how safe it will be, but I think it's a gamble worth taking. If this guy that Rob knows is in the kind of inner circle of the Priory, then it's the first time someone that important has gone on record for like 30 years. So this could be a real coup. I agreed that we wouldn't film it, but I'm going to wear a mic anyway and record what I can.
Your attitude is crucial to this. Absolutely crucial. Yes, your intention, the way in which you handle the goods, you handle the information, is an imperative. There is much more to be discovered, I suspect, in the environs around the chateau. One might imagine people going into a situation like that, into a tomb or even a small sort of catacomb complex, such as may exist, and discovering something that is earth-shattering.
The village of Rennes-le-Château was an interesting reference because parchments that were said to reveal incontrovertible evidence of this bloodline were reportedly discovered there at the end of the 19th century. But according to accounts from the time, the Vatican moved very quickly to suppress the discovery, paying off the priest who'd found them, and they were never seen again. The priest's name would be familiar to any reader of the Da Vinci Code. It was Berenger Saunière. Rob had sent me over 100 emails from his priory contact. The claims and the information were fascinating, but was any of it true?
Do you believe that he is in the priory of Zion?
He definitely is in the priory of Zion. I've seen enough evidence, we've had enough conversations. The material I've been furnished with not only shows me that he's very credible and very much in the priory of Zion, but also shows me that the priory has a wealth of inside information into the mysteries of Rennes-le-Château.
Even though Rob was convinced that he was the real deal, I wasn't so sure. How did I know that this guy wasn't just making all this stuff up? I thought one way was to put him on camera, put him under the lights and see how he'd react and what he'd say. So after weeks of negotiations about where and when, Rob arranged for a meeting.
What do you think the priory's mission is?
The Priory of Zion is propagandizing on behalf of this idea that there's this royal bloodline. They're releasing information at a quick pace. They're exploding information and it's meant to be absorbed by the public. So yeah, it doesn't really matter whether there was a charter that was passed from the Templars to the Rosicrucians and then to the modern Priory of Zion. If they're continuing the same tradition, then they essentially are the same society. They're the same group. It's the same conspiracy.
Because I was skeptical about who he claimed to be, I checked into this man's background with a private investigator. What we found was his name was Nicholas Hayward. He was the adopted son of Sir Harold Hayward, a former advisor to Prince Charles. He was a collector of rare alchemical texts, and he was a high-ranking 33rd degree Freemason.
Do you think this man's hiding something?
It's unusual for somebody to be so difficult to get into in the UK. We just found a lot less doors than there are normally. And it may well be, for example, in an extreme situation, he had adopted a totally new identity.
Are you a member of the Priory of Zion?
I have friends in the Priory of Zion. I speak on their behalf. Zion is not really a secret organisation. Zion just does not choose to operate and cannot really operate in the light. There is a lot to fear in some respects. We do not seek publicity, but we delight on occasion when the right people come along with the right mindset and intention. And that is why I am here.
Do you believe, or does the Priory believe or have evidence that Jesus married Mary and had children?
Yes. Yes is the simple answer to that.
Is there a bloodline of Jesus and Mary?
There is a bloodline of Jesus and Mary, yes. There is.
Do you have evidence within the priory? Is there evidence?
There is evidence.
Beyond what's in the Bible,
beyond
the Talmud,
question.
and
there exists evidence beyond question, but the mainstay of evidence itself is a series of items which are kept together, of objects. I will not go any further than and explain what those objects are. They are unquestionable.
Are they in the possession of the priory?
Their whereabouts is in the possession of the priory.
Did Mary Magdalene come to France?
The body of evidence itself attests to that wholeheartedly.
Is that in France?
Yes.
What they tell me is that the evidence is in the area of Rennes-le-Château, and that it is a body of evidence, and I think they mean body in the real term. And this is what they hold against what they call the Great Lie, that history is not how people have been taught and how the Vatican teaches, that Jesus was in fact married, that he had children, that Mary Magdalene was his bride. They claim they have a body, and that if this body is revealed, then it's incontrovertible proof.
To replay this message, press 1. Hey, Bruce, it's me. Hey, listen, we had your cell phone checked, and they're pretty sure, the guys here are pretty sure that there's some sort of a buzz on it. Don't ask me how it works, but anyway, the guys are checking a little bit further, but they also checked that noise on your hotel phone, that buzzing, and they said that there's most likely a wire on that as well. Be careful and watch it, and call me when you can. Let me know how that meeting went. Be safe. Bye.
Do you think there's a move to stop you and others being more open with the likes of us?
Yes. Some are happy, some are not.
And would they do you think people would be prepared to take the ultimate step to stop that happening?
Don't ask me any more about that, please.
There do appear to have been 3 deaths in the last year of members of Sion, all of which were suspicious, and all of in an identical manner.
Which is?
Cerebral hemorrhage or stroke.
In the sort of secret society Masonic milieu, is a cerebral hemorrhage
indicative of a use of a certain poison? Yes, it is.
Oh, it's like 2 a.m. and I just got a call that a man we were going to meet, Lord Lichfield, died last night at a party. Apparently he died of a cerebral hemorrhage, and he was going to show us some papers he had connected to the Priory and this whole mystery. So I don't know if he was in the Priory, but I do know that apparently he did have a copy of The Shepherds of Arcadia in his private study, which is the painting that Gino Sandri said was one of the coded works of art for this whole mystery. So maybe that's just a coincidence. And maybe it's a coincidence that he died of a cerebral hemorrhage. And maybe it's a coincidence that he died just a few days before we were going to meet him and talk to him about the bloodline.
If members of the Priory had been killed to stop information being revealed, then it was possible that they would try and stop me too. I contacted a member of an important Masonic lodge in Paris to find out what he knew about the Priory and the bloodline. He agreed to talk to me as long as we didn't reveal his identity.
You know, this thing is massive. There's a whole network of Masonic lodges with links to the Vatican, to the CIA. It's incredible. You have no idea. These are very serious people, Bruce. They would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. They killed Roberto Calvi in London because he was going to go public about it all. It's real. The bloodline idea is real. So don't think they won't kill you to keep it covered up.
Okay.
I can tell you that it's all linked to Rennes Chateau. The priest, Sonier, got caught up in it when he found some old parchments under his church. Found out why that area is so important.
All right.
There's definitely something vastly important buried in the region of Rennes Chateau. It has to be religious. It wouldn't have attracted or attained the status it has unless it was heretical and religious. The most likely thing to be down there, and the most shocking thing to be down there, would be the body of Jesus.
Swag. Very.
What exactly the priest discovered under his church at the end of the 19th century is one of the great mysteries of southwest France.
Ah, j'ai compris. Tu as compris? Yeah.
The rumors are that he found hard evidence of the bloodline, maybe even the tombs of Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Et personne n'a vu ça. Hein?
A local artist and author, Alain Foral, got the keys to the church and agreed to show me where the priest had made his discoveries. He said that during renovations of the church, Saunier had uncovered a staircase down into the crypt, which was hidden behind a false door in his wardrobe.
Yes. Before, never.
Never?
No. Il a fermé la porte de la crypte.
He closed the entrance, the door to the crypt.
Yes.
And then this is a secret room, no? A salle secrète?
Yes. And now, I go Saunier.
Oui.
Nobody has seen it.
I went to the current mayor of Rennes-le-Château to see if we could excavate beneath the floor in that secret room. He said it was impossible, no way it would be allowed. He'd wanted to excavate beneath the church for years, but the French government wouldn't let him. Apparently his applications for a permit remain locked in red tape. There were powerful people, he said, who didn't want this affair exposed any further.
Est-ce qu'il y a des gens qui voulaient de cacher les vérités?
Yes.
Well, I think the priest definitely discovered a tomb or tombs, either under the church or there was an entrance under the church which led to another site. I'm so confident because we've been approached by a number of locals from Rennes-le-Château, very quietly, who've actually showed us gifts that Saunier gave their parents and grandparents. We've seen jewelry, we've seen coins, and in one case I've actually seen a solid silver 13th century chalice, still in the same leather box with a little handwritten note from Saunier. So these are substantial, valuable items for a little country priest to have. So yes, he found a treasure, which he probably found in a tomb. The big question is, what else? When the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail came out in 1982, the three authors received a letter from a reverend in England who basically said, yes, there's a treasure at Rennes-le-Château, but no, it isn't just chalices and coins and baubles. It's papers that the priest Saunier discovered, papers which were incontrovertible proof that Jesus was still alive in 45 AD. In other words, papers that completely undermine the basis of church doctrine, that he didn't die on the cross. Therefore, he wasn't resurrected. Therefore, he isn't divine. This reverend said he got this knowledge from a priest who had actually touched and translated these parchments at the Church of Saint-Sulpice in Paris. Apparently, they then went into the hands of the Vatican and they've never been seen since. Now, it's possible that Saunier left a clue about the contents of these parchments in his church, because Station 14 traditionally depicts the body of the crucified Jesus being carried into his tombs by his disciples. But in the church at Rennes-le-Château, someone's painted in a moon to the top left corner of the scene, which sets it at night. And of course it's against Jewish law to touch a dead body at night. And you could interpret it as they're not touching a dead body because he was still alive. In isolation, it's a fascinating hypothesis. When you tie it into the letter that the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail got, that Saunier had discovered parchments that were incontrovertible proof that Jesus hadn't died, it's not so wild an idea to say that this was the way the priest subtly wanted to leave a message that would outlast him and that would have us still asking questions 100 years later.
Ça va? Allez, c'est bon.
I was contacted by a local man who'd heard about my investigation, who said he'd actually got hold of some of the parchments that the priest had found under the church. I knew this could be a scam, but I was curious to see what he had, so I agreed to meet him.
Ça c'est quoi exactement?
Ce sont des parchemins de l'affaire de Rennes-le-Château qui ont été, au fil des siècles, préservés par les curés pour transmettre un grand secret. Je dis le grand secret parce que c'est le secret de la région, le secret des Cathares, le secret de l'Église aussi.
According to these parchments, the secret was that Jesus Christ had not died on the cross, but was smuggled out of Jerusalem to southern France, along with Mary Magdalene and their children. On the face of it, they were just Latin passages from the Bible. But he said that when you use this small cipher to decode them, a new secret text appeared.
Are you convinced this is authentic?
Tu es convaincu que ça c'est authentique?
Plus que convaincu, oui. Plus que convaincu. Ce livre est absolument indiscutable. Hein.
So are these, what are the age of these documents?
Ils ont quel âge ces documents?
Les plus anciens datent de la Révolution française.
Is it a key to a map?
Est-ce que ça c'est une clé pour une carte ou un plan?
Tout à fait.
Yes.
C'est un plan symbolisé.
It's a symbolic map.
Is Mary Magdalene buried somewhere on this map in front of us?
Donc, est-ce que Marie Magdalene, le tombeau est quelque part dans cette plan?
Tout à fait, bien sûr. Avec celui du Christ aussi, bien sûr.
Yes, with Christ too.
What does he know? What form the bodies are in? Are they embalmed or skeletons or?
Est-ce que les corps maintenant sont ils sont dégradés, ils sont embalmés, ils sont.
Si j'en crois, c'est volontaire. Hein, si j'en crois ce que disent les prêtres, hein, le corps est encore en état de momification.
I feel that I'm being led to the fact that you have the body of Mary Magdalene.
What can I say about that? I mean, that's what you feel. That's.
If you, hypothetically, if you did, would it be a wild notion that it could be an embalmed body, or that it would just be a skeleton?
No, it would be embalmed.
The parchments reveal that the embalmed bodies of Mary Magdalene, of Jesus and their children were buried in an underground temple near Rennes-le-Château.
Donc ce qu'on peut trouver dans le temple à l'heure actuelle, on a reconstitué l'équivalent d'un temple de Salomon.
So what's in the temple is a reconstitution of the Temple of Solomon.
When was it built?
C'était construit quand?
5e siècle environ, la base, 5e siècle environ avant Jésus-Christ.
Ah, 5e siècle avant Jésus. The 5th century before Jesus.
Is there a temple underground?
Yes. It has one open entrance at this point in time. One of 12.
Is this a necropolis as well?
Of sorts. I don't like to term it that, but yes.
But there are people of importance buried there?
Yes. I mean, there are things buried there, yes. There are treasures buried there, yes. Over the centuries, it's acted as a repository for many things. And there's still a lot to be discovered there.
Is Mary Magdalene buried in this necropolis?
Oui, si on en croit les documents que l'on a entre les mains, et si on en croit aussi les vitraux d'église, ils sont effectivement là.
If that temple really is there, that will be the location of the evidence. That will be where the body of evidence is.
The body of Mary.
If it's the body of Mary, the body of Jesus, the head of John the Baptist, that's your location.
The Priory say that there was a robbery at one of their addresses in Paris a few years ago, and I think it's possible that that's where this guy got these parchments. So whether they're original copies of the parchments the priest found in Rennes-le-Château, or whether they're modern forgeries, doesn't really matter if the information is true. But is it? Did Mary and Jesus come to France with their children, and are they buried here now? Certainly there's a hugely strong belief locally that that's the case, and that there's something sacred about the area around Rennes-le-Château, but no one's ever found anything. Historically, it stands up because there was a thriving Jewish community in this area of southwest France. So if you were looking to flee from Jerusalem, it is possible that Mary, with or without her children, maybe with Jesus or his body, did come here to France and settle. Which means they're buried here somewhere. But where? My producer in Los Angeles has found a lead that might be interesting. It's a website called The Tomb Man, and he claims to have found a Knights Templar tomb near Rennes-le-Château, which is connected to the whole Saunière mystery. You can see photos of the tomb on the website, and there's what appears to be a body under a shroud with a red Templar cross on it, and there are chests and other items in the tomb. I think it looks, like a film set. I think it looks too good to be true. I'm very skeptical, but it is worth checking out. And Renee's arranged a meeting for tomorrow evening in the next door village, so we'll see what Mr. Two-Man has.
Ben Hammett.
The man I'd arranged to meet went by the name of Ben Hammett, which was an anagram of the Tomb Man. He was known to be very careful about his security, so much so that although he'd asked to meet me at this bar, he'd sent his brother instead.
That is very bloody weird.
I eventually met Ben himself just around the corner. He'd been watching us from the bridge. It was clear from his reactions that he was very uneasy about the camera being there, but after a brief chat, we arranged to meet again the following morning for an interview.
this must be him. He's asleep, isn't he? Keep turning it. I guess I'll just go knock on the door. Ben? Hey. Can I come in? I've got a camera. Okay, yeah. So this is home. Home sweet home.
He told me that he'd first come down to the area with his brother in 1999 to look for treasure after seeing a documentary on Rennes-le-Château on the BBC. He said that they spent day after day in the church looking for hidden clues and messages in the statues and murals, trying to unlock what they believed was a coded map.
1.82 metres.
Eventually, after a lot of trial and error, they discovered 4 separate landmarks nearby that were all depicted in the church and which lined up exactly with a cave on a local mountain.
What up there? There was a passage towards the back of the cave.
You go have a look. Yeah, mate, you take the camera, you might get it on film.
We thought we'd explore it, but it was full of spiders, lots of spiders. So I had an idea of pushing a video camera in with a stick so that we could see around the corner, you know, put it on record, see around the corner, pull it back, and if anything was there, then it would be worth venturing forth, worth the risk, you know. And no sooner as I put it on record, pushed it forward, and it had disappeared, and consequently it had fallen down this hole, and I found the first glimpse of a tomb. After a while, you could see I shot him a torch down trying to see it.
And he gave it some light.
Yeah.
What do you think's in there? What do you think of who that is or what it is?
I don't know. I mean, it looks like a Templar burial, but obviously we won't know till we get in there. But
it's real.
But it's real, yeah.
With no way into the tomb and worried about disclosing its whereabouts to anyone, Ben sat on his discovery for several years before returning to Rennes-le-Château. Once again, using the same method that had led him to the tomb, he identified hidden clues, which he said the priest had embedded in the decor of the church, a secret map which could be overlaid on the local landscape.
On the edge of this one, 1.22 metres.
He connected the crouching devil figure just inside the door at the church with an ancient pagan landmark not far from the village known as the Devil's Armchair. Ben said that if you imagine the devil seated in this chair, his gaze falls on a specific spot of ground a few feet away.
I dug and eventually found the first bottle, and inside was this.
Is that Sonia's signature?
Yeah.
It was rolled up?
Yeah, it was rolled up, and this is what we could see through the glass, this bit here.
And what's on the other side? It looks like a map.
Yeah, this...
What do you make of it?
It took a while to decipher, but what was interesting on this, we have this three-part key design, and deciphered it reads, begin at the beginning, not the church, yes, Mary Magdalene, begin or start.
Begin, beginning and Magdalene. These cryptic clues led Ben and his team to a real place not far from the village, a sacred spring called the Source of the Magdalene. And using measurements hidden in the text of the clue, they were led to an exact spot where he found a large stone engraved with the initials of the priest, Burgess Saunier.
Yeah, gotta be. Gotta be.
With a whole of water still.
What's that?
Well, they're close, maybe not.
That is a definite...
That is a B
That
and
shows
an
up
S.
well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we followed this arrow, done a line of sight, much like we did the first one, and all along that line of sight we checked all crevices, any likely hiding places, and that's eventually, after a bit of searching, we found this grotto-like cave entrance. We dug, cleared the leaves away, dug down and found a bottle.
And don't pull it out.
Yeah, I want my camera ready to get pictures of you, Ben.
Here we have. The bottle is a lot larger. I'm not going to move it. I'm just trying to see how far. Yeah, it goes into a neck.
Okay, move your arm just for a second. Just want to get this in situ.
Keep it upright just in case there's any water in it, and if there is, it would run down to the bottom. Yes, it's been sealed with red wax.
There's part 3.
Oh, I tilted the bottle.
Just, oh, he's got his signature on there again.
It looks...
Within this second bottle was a densely written, two-sided piece of paper with what appeared to be the signature of the priest Burgess Saunier. By rearranging the order of the letters and words, Ben said he was able to decipher some hidden messages within the text. I have entered a tunnel in the mountain and found tombs of the Knights of the Temple and the Cross. The Knights protected a great secret in written manuscripts which I have found. The enemies are not the heretics, but the church in Rome. I have abandoned and renounced my false church. I have done what I've done to preserve the secret. Maybe in the future the time will come for the secret to be revealed.
Now, how are you feeling by now you found the second one? When you found the second one?
It's hard to describe. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's like wolf, you know. It's I don't know. It's awesome. It seems a cliche word, but it's, you know, it just makes you shiver. You know, it's.
Having solved the first two parts of the key, Ben then deciphered the riddle in the latest clue.
Enter the cave beneath the Blackfoot and the helmet. To reveal the place here to dig, does the boy on bended knee.
The Blackfoot, the boy on bended knee and the helmet were all shown in the Stations of the Cross in the church at Rennes-le-Château. These led him to a helmet-shaped rock known locally as the Guardian, high on a mountain not far from the village. At the foot of the rock, Ben discovered a small triangular grotto, just like the one shown in the church, in which he discovered another marker stone pointing to a large boulder.
Mind your feet. Stay with it. That's it.
but there's a bottle underneath it.
Just.
They didn't tell you, did that particular?
Oh, that's heavy, isn't it? Yeah. Found a bottle, Sandy.
The bottle was under the huge rock which almost killed Ben.
Yes, honestly.
I
don't believe it.
Bottle.
Finally.
Keep it in that pouch if you want.
Number 3. Or what we think is number 3.
I think, you know, the question that everyone's going to have is that this stuff looks amazing. Why you? I guess they'd suspect that it's a big hoax, because, you know, there's so many hoaxes around this mystery.
Yes, but I mean, it's not a hoax. I did not bury these. I believe Sonia was responsible for these. We know he went walking along all over the landscape, doing whatever he was doing, searching or planting these. We have photographs of him in certain locations where these were found. It's, I think they're genuine Sonia artifacts.
And why you? I mean, why not Henry Lincoln or all these other people who are searching for treasure?
You've got to get, I mean, look outside it. I'm here in the middle of it. I'm here walking the landscape. I'm here following the clues in the church. It's not that I've just gone and looked at it and immediately found it. You know, there's been work, there's been disappointments, there's places I've searched and found nothing, you know, many places. It's just, it takes a while to get into the head of Sonia, but once you're in there, it sort of clicks.
Just be careful, you've pulled the paper up and you don't. You've started creasing it. No, you're going to have to break the glass.
No, I'm going to break the cork.
Okay, careful of the paper now.
I think you're going to damage the paper.
You certainly are, but we're going to get it out anyway.
No, we need to crack the bottle. No, no, no. Don't. Can I open it and see what's in there? I can't believe this.
The vraie histoire, I think that means the true history of the crucifixion and the resurrection. Jesus did not die on the cross, but 22 days afterwards.
The resurrection of Jesus was a trick. It was Mary Magdalene who took his body from his tomb. The disciples were fooled. Later, the body of Jesus was discovered by the Templars and then hidden 3 times. Rome knows all about this, but they cannot afford to let the secret be known. They threaten to kill if the location of the tomb is revealed.
Oh yeah.
After several weeks together, I got a call from a worried Ben.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Bruce. I just had a, you know, second thoughts. I've just been worried about the filming and all that, you know, because of, you know, the stuff that's happened in the past.
Let's walk up. What's happened in the past?
Well, when I was at Rennes Chateau, when I first discovered the tomb and that, I had the brakes cut on my van and I had to leave it at a campsite overnight, and I actually stayed in a hotel.
Right.
But when I went back in the morning, the van had been broken into, which wasn't very hard. You only had to slide the windows back and put your arm in. But I had a roll of film taken and a tape out of my video camera, though the video camera and the other camera was left. And about a week after that, someone turned up at my house. He says, I've been sent by someone you met in France. But he turned out and he wanted information now about what I was, you know, how I found it and where it was and all this. I mean, I told him to, you know, go, and I shut the door in the end.
Do you think you're in over your head?
Yeah, maybe. What I'll do, Bruce, I'll go away and I'll give you a call, okay?
Alright.
Alright then, mate. Thanks for meeting.
Be careful, Ben.
Yeah, you, Bruce.
I hoped he was going to tell me that he was going to take me to the tomb. But he's clearly too spooked right now from he thinks he's being tailed. Stolen tapes, they cut his brakes, they've come to his house. I mean, he's in fear for his life and his family. You know, I've got to find out whether this tomb is real or not. But if people are trying to menace him, then maybe they know something I don't. Let's go back to the car.
Although he was still worried about the threats against him, we eventually returned to the area. And using clues from the last message, Ben uncovered a fourth bottle buried in the ground.
If I hold it up to the light, you can see the message inside.
Oh yeah.
It's a big one again, like the second one by the look of it. Because it seems to go into the neck. And it's resting on where it's a blown bottle, there's a big lip inside.
Yeah.
So I think I'll clean that off first. I'll clean the dirt off. I'll run it in the sink.
Yeah.
Oh,
beautiful.
That's a good one. Oh, it's broke all the way round, but it's... Didn't get you a glass, did I? Alright. We're still not going to get... I'm going to have to see it's cracked all the way, so I'm going to take the whole top off. Oh, wow.
Well,
this is the moment to cut.
Right.
That's it.
Let's just move this out the way. Oh.
The parchments of Ave Vigo, the cup of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and the anointing jar. But it's basically seems to be pointing to that these three things might be here in this box, right?
Look, it's saying grotto and there's a sister there, so there's a chest in the grotto. And if we look, we've got like a cross J and an M, but it could be like a funny T, back to front T. And on the altar painting of Mary Magdalene in the church, we have this. We have the J with a cross T on it, and we have the M.
So you think that those things on the altar
match these?
Match those. Is where she is a real place?
Yes.
Was Saunier trying to tell us? Was he trying to give us a specific location?
Yes.
Of what?
An entrance.
We hiked across the valley from Rennes-le-Château up towards what's known as the Cave of the Magdalene. And when we got there, we realised that when you look back at the entrance, it matches the shape of the cave in the Clue, almost exactly. And Bill Kersey, who's a friend of Ben's, did a dowsing.
Is it there, Bill?
And found a spot where he thought there was something large buried in the ground, which is where Ben dug.
What do you think, Bruce? Do you reckon anyone's dug here?
No.
Hear that?
Yeah. What do you think it is?
Well, it sounds wood to me. It's wood and hollow, which is what we want.
Oh, can you pass me
It is
the
wood.
lighter as well?
Yeah.
Just tap it.
How big is it? How big?
Yeah, it is a box. Yeah, here it comes.
I think I just pulled the lid up then. So it can't be locked. And
Okay, hold on. What you're doing is you're pulling the top off. You see, there's a... Oh yeah, and we're letting earth in. Oh, you're pulling... It's opening halfway. Okay. Pop it out, Dan. Can you pop it over here?
Alright, Bill, not too rough for it, just in case there's any...
I'm going to slip into...
It's amazing. How do you feel?
I want to open it. Should we open it here or...?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about, have you got your filming going?
Yeah, I'm live and...
Right, you ready? You can see, can you see, Bill?
Just give 1 second.
I can see.
Okay.
I got a funny light.
We're there. So this could be the first time in 100 years.
Look at the hinges, Bill.
Wow.
I think that's stop it. I might break the hinges. Shall I just try and work it? Oh my God.
This is the key.
I'm stunned. Because this could be
that is
the most important find, well, in this mystery. Okay, so what can we say? I'd leave... Oh.
I just want to hold the cup of... if it is a cup of Jesus.
Careful.
I'll put that in there, but I think it's only a rock.
Okay.
It's a bit mouldy.
What is it made of?
Pottery, yeah.
Pottery. It's got a crack down one edge.
And there's a scroll.
And there's
we'll leave the scroll till we get back.
And the coins.
We'll have to go back.
Yes.
It's old. And this is... It looks like the ointment jar.
Old. Yes.
I don't know what
It's something else.
How do you feel?
I can't believe it, actually.
No,
it doesn't seem possible.
So, I propose a toast.
Propose a mate.
To Ben.
To Ben finding the box.
Cheers.
Onwards and upwards.
Skull.
Is to finding things. Was it St. Anthony and the Hermit is the saint of finding things?
Yes,
things that are lost. Cheers, St. Anthony.
So what's the plan now then?
Right, the plan is now...
What about the other end? Crack the other end and take it?
No, I don't just pull it and then draw it out.
Open it up. Oh, that looks interesting.
I was going to use tweezers to unravel it, but I thought my fingers would do less damage. Inside the vial was a small roll bit of old parchment. On it was a hand-drawn layout of the church at Rennes-le-Château, and there was an arrow pointing down to a regalis crypta, a royal crypt. So at some stage there must have been a very important body down there. And given the legends about her being buried in the area, did the two M's mean it was Mary Magdalene? And if it did, had Sonia discovered her and then buried some relics from her tomb in the wooden chest, including the actual jar of perfume which she used to anoint the feet of Jesus?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How was the flight?
Excellent. Tiring.
We flew to London to meet with Israeli archaeologist Dr. Gabriel Barkai, one of the world's top experts on ancient relics from Jerusalem, who'd agreed to analyze the contents of the chest.
This is incrustation on the inside and then the outside, which is good Jerusalemite stuff. It most probably originates from a tomb. The collection includes a small bottle-like vase, which is an enungentarium. It was for perfumes, which were meant to counter-effect the odors inside a burial cave. The second one is a bowl with an outflaring rim with a small flat base. The third object is an elongated glass bottle which belongs to a type known as alabastra. It is made of glass imitating alabaster prototypes. They are no doubt from the vicinity of Jerusalem or generally from Judean origin, from the 1st century BC. I had a look also at the coins. They also seem to be Palestinian. I had the impression that several of them are Byzantine in date, that is early Christian, belonging to very generally 5th, 6th centuries AD. And one of the coins seemed to be a silver coin of the Crusaders in Jerusalem, the Jerusalem Kingdom. Now this is an important piece. This is one of the coins of the Roman procurators. Again, you see the flan, which has the diagonal side. It is the Jerusalem Mint. It is one of the Roman procurators in Judah, a palm tree on the other side, the palm branch here.
When would this date from?
This is 1st century.
AD?
Yes. It's very interesting. I'm very happy that I saw it with my own eyes. I'm very happy. My impression would be that it could have been either purchased in modern time in the antiquities market somewhere in present-day Israel and brought over to Europe. Another possibility is that it was discovered in the past in an unknown way and then transferred to Europe. So it is possible. It is possible. It would be not out of the question that artifacts excavated by the Templars, Knight Templars in Palestine or even in Temple Mount would find their way to Europe. The finds in this chest are really intriguing, and it is really something that inflames the imagination. Whether it is connected to the historical Jesus or not, time will tell. Thank you very much.
The production office in Los Angeles got the results back from Oxford University's Carbon-14 lab, who'd analysed the small roll parchment in the vial.
There's a 68.2% probability that the parchment dates from between 1440 AD and 1480 AD, and a 95.4% probability that it dates from between 1430 AD and 1520 AD. It's great results.
That second line is AURF.
Okay, hold on.
Ben had managed to translate the text on the far left-hand side of the parchment. It read, "Here you begin to undertake a search for the secret tomb and treasure which I've guarded, and by the act of finding it, you become its guardian." The cup, the small ointment jar, and the alabaster vial were all authentic first century relics from in or around Jerusalem. That much we now knew. But how did they end up in that chest in France? Was it even remotely possible that the priest had discovered them in the tomb of Mary Magdalene? And was that why the Shepherds of Arcadia painting was so important to the Priory? Because it symbolised her actual tomb in the area. When I got back to France, I called the man from the Priory of Sion to get his take on Ben's discovery.
Hello?
Hi Nick, it's Bruce.
Hello, Bruce.
I mean, I really want to try and get down to, you know, brass tacks, as it were. I mean,
Go for it.
does that tomb exist?
Is that which tomb? What, her tomb?
The tomb of Mary Magdalene?
Yes, it does.
And it's in the area?
It is in the area.
And did he get that from it, do you think? I'm not...
I cannot think that he got it from anywhere else. And was it an object of veneration by subsequent sects and orders, etc.?
What about the cup?
Ditto.
Why? Because it would celebrate the marriage?
Absolutely.
And they would venerate them because it's symbolic of the marriage and the bloodline?
Yes.
Why us? Why did we get to do this?
You have approached this from an entirely different way from any other group, any other individual, any other team, any other inquirers. We're waiting for someone like you to come along.
If Nicholas Haywood was right, and the objects in the chest were taken from the tomb of Mary Magdalene in the area, then how were they connected to the tomb that Ben had discovered? According to the priest Saunier, he dug the earth to construct a passage to this Knights Templar tomb in the mountain, where he discovered beautiful things, a treasure and a corpse, the holy secrets and the sacred objects of the Jews. When you look at the images of Ben's tomb and hear the priest's words, you can't help but wonder whether they both stumbled upon the same place. The question is, could that be the remains of Mary Magdalene under the shroud?
Yeah. All right then, Pat. Yeah, well, thanks for the warning. Yeah, speak to you later, mate. Cheers.
What happened?
Well, That was Pat. He's a German mate of mine. He helps me out here sometimes. He's a Ren enthusiast. And there's this bloke who he knows from the Germans forum who said he knew where my tomb was and he knew who was inside, and he was coming out here to Ren, and then he was going on to Jerusalem. But in Jerusalem he was captured by someone and his son was shot in front of him, and then he was shot.
Bloody hell.
But he said he knew where my tomb was, so was that why he was shot, or?
In recent years, there had been a number of suspicious deaths connected to the Rennes-le-Château mystery. The man who bought Saunier's house and estate in the village was killed in a violent car crash, and the man who bought it off him had his car riddled with bullets. Ben decided to go back to the tomb that night to try and see who or what was down there using a remote camera. And given the news from Jerusalem, he asked the cameraman and I to stand guard outside.
Is that everything?
That's everything, yeah.
Don't need anything else?
No. City.
How long do you think you'll be?
Well, I've got to uncover it all first, dig it all out, the foam and everything. Probably a couple of hours, maybe a little bit longer.
Okay.
If you wait here, I can find you again then.
It's the middle of nowhere, isn't it?
If you hear anything in the bush, it's probably just wild boar or something. Alright. It's over with. If I get any problems, I'll ring your mobile, okay?
Right. Aaron, let him go off. We're staying here. We're not going with him.
I'll see you in a couple of hours then. An hour's work ahead of me. I'm going to turn it off for a while, dig it out as soon as I see the entrance, and I'll start filming again.
There's lots of rocks. Over the other side. Oh, gold, obviously gold. It's like cups. God, that's digging in my hand. I'm trying to get... Again. Try and do is lift the cloth up. Oh, I just saw it. Oh, yeah, I can see the teeth. Bloody hell. Oh, bloody hell, that's spooky. Oh, there's the mouth, eyes. Nose. Oh my god. Oh, that is spooky, that's horrible. Some sort of platform, reddish, pinkish. God, bloody hell. Come on. Touch your arms in. Well, it looks like it's partially mummified. It certainly looks like there's skin on it. Oh, that is bloody... Oh. Yeah, that's the hands. Fingers. Open up the knife. Oh, that's definitely fingers, and they look like they're crossed like the altar. Mary Magdalene. So this could be Mary Magdalene. Fucking hell, if that is. Yeah, the fingers definitely look overlapped. Fingers, bloody hell. Alright, that is the entrance. Yeah, I think that is... It looks like a wooden beam, like a support, a lintel. Alright, job done. Thanks for that.
Wow.
I mean, that looks old.
That is incredible. Look at this, and you can... It's lying on this. What's this? Like?
Yeah, that looks like there's a marble around here called rose marble. I think that's what, and that's what it looks like.
That is. So it's lying on a marble like plinth.
Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, can you get this stuff out?
No, they can't get in. There's no way in.
But you can't lift it out where the camera's gone down?
Oh no, the hole's too small. You know.
How big's the hole?
I don't know, like that. What, a bit bigger than this monitor though.
Oh, so it's just, that's...
Yeah, that's right, just been enough to get the camera down, really.
Well, it's amazing footage. Stunning. And it looks real to me. I mean, there is a corpse under that shroud. Just seems too hard to fake. Yes, you could put the items in there. You could perhaps even, you know, find a mummified corpse. But who's going to put that huge marble slab in there? I mean, this tomb's out in the middle of nowhere. So, you know, I know our critics are going to think this is crazy, but it's real. It is real. It exists. It's there. Are we being led?
You have been, I think you have been led from the day you set foot on this task.
This is the slow release. Is this the aim of the current circuit, the current release of information, is to let the next piece out?
Is it unique to us, or is it being disseminated across other?
At this point in time, it's unique to you.
This is probably all my DNA on that.
Look at the size of that one.
Yeah.
Can you see that, Aaron?
Yeah. Looks like it might be greyish in places.
It's a fair old size. Okay.
We'd been able to collect some hair strands from the skull for DNA tests at Lakehead University in Ontario, Canada. There wasn't enough DNA to be able to establish either the age or gender of the corpse, but they were able to genetically map the origin of its ancestors to the Middle East.
Who do you think it is?
Well, it looks like a female to me, the shape of the face and that, and I think it's, I think it could be Mary Magdalene because of the fingers.
Do you still want to go public? Do you still want to go ahead?
Oh, I need to go public to give me some sort of safety, I think, you know, even though I'm not giving out the location. I think this needs to be got out there as soon as possible, really.
Although Ben thought it could be Mary Magdalene, I wasn't so sure. But even if it was a Knight Templar or a member of the Bloodline, it would still be a huge discovery. Armed with the latest footage and the DNA test, Ben and I hit the road to see what the experts thought. First stop was Cardiff in Wales, and a man who'd been investigating the Rennes-le-Château mystery for 30 years.
Those are quite definitely vessels of some sort, cups, jugs.
Do they look religious at all? Religious sort of...
This one's a chalice, quite clearly.
This one here?
The one that, as a priest, I would use to administer the communion to you. If you, yeah, that isn't it, Trish? That's unmistakably a chalice. I'd put money on that. Serious money.
Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe is an Anglican priest who's fascinated with the whole Bloodline mystery and its implications. I knew that he'd tell me straight away whether we had anything credible or not.
This is amazing footage. If this could by any chance be either her tomb or the tomb of one of the descendants in which the family heirlooms have been preserved, then it would be harmonious with the idea of Mary of Bethany, alias Mary Magdalene, being a wealthy woman. I would have said that this is extremely significant. It could, for me as a Wren researcher for over 30 years, this could be one of the most important and significant finds that has yet been made.
The way this body is simply just lying there under this shroud, it is not your common or garden burial.
Our next stop was Dr. Aidan Dodson at Bristol University in England, one of the world's most respected mummy experts, who'd recently discovered the remains of the pharaoh Ramses I.
It's almost lying in state.
Yeah,
isn't it? It's kind of lying on this...
That's exactly what it looks like. It's something.
And the people would kind of walk round and...
Yeah, and the very fact that it hasn't
Yeah.
then been taken away, suggests to me that there's this idea of some kind of veneration. Because clearly, looking at the stones from the other side, it has been properly filled up. It was not just been abandoned.
Back in our edit suite in Los Angeles, I showed our footage to Professor Robert Eisenman, a world-renowned biblical scholar and the leading figure in the translation and publication of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
That looks really interesting because that's clearly a mummified corpse. But now you've got to ask other questions. You know, you have to carbon date that corpse. It isn't enough to take a strand of hair from that corpse and see if it's male or female and then make all sorts of suppositions on that basis. You have to go in there and carbon test it, see when it could have come from. It does look very, very mummified. That doesn't mean someone couldn't have picked up a mummified corpse, wrapped it in a Templar-like shroud, and put it there. My question is, okay, it's too perfect. Why is the shroud sitting there with the cross so you can see? Why in a wet climate like southern France hasn't that whole thing rotted away?
What do you make of that chest and the items in it?
Well, honestly, the chest worries me quite a bit. It seems a little too packed. A perfume vial, a bowl, this kind of thing. Why would someone put these things in there? All of the coins, etc., etc., etc. Now, I have no doubt that these things will turn out to be authentic in terms of what they are. But how did they get there? You know, what you have to do is you've got to go very carefully. You have to go step by step before you make any claims, because the whole world is waiting to laugh you out of the room. And you have to go really careful. I've been involved in things that were ultimately turned out to be frauds and forgeries and things like that. And these things can be very clever and very, very crafty.
I knew that the academic world were going to be very skeptical about Ben's discoveries. They weren't going to be happy with his belief that it's Mary Magdalene, and they were definitely going to have a problem with his amateur archaeology. But I can't help feeling that's just unfair. The world's museums are full of relics discovered by maverick adventurers like Ben Hammett, who just followed a hunch and pulled stuff out of the ground with their bare hands. Why do you have to have a PhD to uncover something truly remarkable?
The guardians of the walls are always going to try to protect the status quo. They have two choices. They can accept this and all its implications, or they can just say there's no evidence for this and maintain the trenches that they've built. But in that case, they'll be even more out of step with the people.
Has anyone ever called you a bad Christian, and how do you react to that?
It makes me sad to think that people out there think I'm there to attack the church, when in fact I'm bringing them a gift, if they could only perceive it, of reuniting the masculine and feminine at the very heart of the story. I asked a group once, I said, you know, what if this had been our model in Christianity? And one woman there was Polish, and she shook her head. She said, there would not have been a Holocaust. We would have had a whole different history if we had had that as our model. It could be the renewal of Christianity to have this story be told. What if the second coming is actually our renewed vision of who Jesus really was, and now we have him hand in hand with his partner, as in that window?
My last stop was perhaps the most important, a chance to show and discuss our discoveries with a senior and controversial member of the Christian Church.
Bishop Spong?
Yes, sir.
Bruce Burgess.
Glad to see you, Bruce.
I've got a camera with me. Is it okay if I come in?
Come on in.
Okay.
I think that traditional Christianity, that institutional form of Christianity, is probably dying. And I'm not sure that letting it die wouldn't be a good thing to happen, because I think when you look at the manifestations of traditional Christianity, they're not very life-giving. We've blessed slavery with the Christian scriptures. We've blessed anti-Semitism with the Christian scriptures. We stood by and watched Hitler destroy 6 million Jews. And then we were negative about women. And then we're negative about gay people. And we've been negative about left-handed people. And we've been negative about mentally ill people. And we've been negative about divorced people. The church has victimized a great number of people in this world. Now, how does that square with the portrait of Jesus drawn by the fourth gospel that says the purpose of Jesus is that we might have life and we might have it more abundantly? Is the way we treat gay people giving them life? Is the way we've treated women giving them life? We are in a rebellion situation because people aren't going to accept those definitions. I don't care what the Pope says. And so the traditional way in which we've told the Jesus story, I think, is inaccurate, and I think it will die. But I don't think the Jesus story will die, and I don't think the power of a God presence in human life will die. I think he was a remarkable, remarkable human being.
It's been a hell of a journey. And I think that everything that's been found is really just a start. But I do think now that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. I think they did have children. I think Mary and the children did flee to France. And I think that they are buried there now. The cup and the jar are authentic first century relics from Jerusalem. The tomb is very real, and now we know that the corpse has a unique Middle Eastern DNA profile. And of course what lies beyond that blocked up entrance could be the biggest discovery of all. And maybe the treasure that was smuggled out of Jerusalem. But we won't know anything until there's an excavation. So really I've come as far as I can go. For the record though, I do think that it's possible that these discoveries, especially the chest and maybe even the tomb, were somehow placed there for Ben and for us to find. That doesn't make them fake in any way. It just means that someone with an agenda wants this material revealed. But who? I think the jury's still out on the Priory of Zion. They might be real, or they might just be a convenient front for something else. But there was something that Nicholas Hayward said to me, which has nagged away at me for over a year now.
Do you have insiders in Rome?
Yes.
Who are members of the Priory?
Yes.
Did the Vatican know that?
Yes.
Why do they not kick them out?
Some people you can't remove.
Can you uphold and believe in the doctrine and be a member of the Priory of Zion?
You can appear to believe in the doctrine and uphold the doctrine and be a member of Zion.
I take it we're not going to be able to interview one of these people.
You didn't ask.
Can we interview one of them?
I will do my best.
Is it possible that there's a small circle at the heart of the Vatican who've always known about the marriage, the children, the bloodline, and yet maintain their doctrine? Is this group the real Priory of Zion? And if I'm right, then they know who's in that tomb, and they know where it leads to. And whatever they say publicly, they seem to want all of us to know it too.
If you ask any members of Zion, they will always tell you that things are always unfolding according to plan, because they always are.
I would like to suggest to you, and let's just say I'm only thinking out loud. Yes. The real power behind this, let's say the real creator of the all, is in fact the evolved people in the Roman Catholic Church. They are the ones that are guiding this whole issue. There have always been people like me there at the top level of the Roman Catholic Church. The truth hides under its own opposite. Yes. Clearly, the fact that Christ has children, that it wasn't the story of resurrection. The truth is different. But there is no point in revealing truth to people until they're ready. People sometimes they want to buy a lie more readily than the truth. The church, plain and simply, the Catholic Church is the prelude of the all of life.
I don't know if they had any children, but
I think Jesus was a man, and yeah, he could fall in love with her, so I think it's really a possibility.
If he was married to her, then that would like blow everyone's mind, saying like, well, everything we believed up until so far isn't really true, or it's just a farce.
The Gospels were written centuries later. Gospels is not real history.
I think that it would be a positive thing, and I think it would make the whole concept of Jesus and religion more accessible to the world, especially the world that we live in today.
If there was proof one day, it would not shock me at all. It would just validate probably what I kind of knew intuitively.
I think it'll be a great thing that he was married because he was a man while he was on earth. So, and he found someone that he loved, and they were together, and they loved each other, and there's nothing wrong with loving somebody.
Married? And Jesus married? That's crazy.
Don't believe it. Don't buy into it.
Not at all. I think if it were true, it would have been in the Bible.
What? No. That doesn't...
Crazy.
Yeah.
It will have a very big impact on the world. I think a lot of people that are very religious will sort of start doubting what the Bible says and start doubting what they feel.
I think it would be very controversial, but I guess just basically the truth is the truth, and people should pursue the truth above what they wish the truth was.
If Jesus and Mary are found to have been married, I think it will greatly upset traditional sections of the Catholic Church, because it will mean they will have to rewrite history.